Last week we previewed the girls regional tournament, which starts this week. We are going to now preview next week, which will be the beginning of the boys regional tournament. Actually, will start this week, but it will bleed into the following week. So we are pleased to be joined this week by the boys head basketball coach of the Winfield Generals, head coach Travis Tarr. Coach, welcome to the program.
Thanks, bro.
Absolutely. Well, let's kind of start there. I mean, the postseason is already here. We were kind of talking there for a couple of minutes about just how quick this goes and the nitty-gritty of it all. I mean, whenever you get past your regular season game on Tuesday against Nitro, what's your message to your guys leading into the postseason?
It's a simple message probably everybody's telling right now is everybody starts 0-0. Try to preach during the season. You hear it regularly that it's 22 scrimmages. You don't handle it that way. You're out there kind of fighting and tugging for every ounce of victory you can get. But getting into the postseason, you're hoping that you're catching your stride here late towards the season, which this team has. We're competing really well, doing a lot of good things. But it's a good reset button, and from a young team that we have, we returned probably, I think it was 4.5 points last year off last year's roster. And these guys, from the constant buy-in from this summer to get us to where we're at right now, to where we're competing really well. I'm excited to be going into Friday with them. It's a team I've really enjoyed coaching, and so I expect, if we come out and we can guard the way I know we can and get lucky and hit some shots, I think we could be interesting.
You talked about how this team is catching its stride late in the season. I mean, talk to me about what's different at this point in the season compared to the first couple of weeks of the season.
First couple of weeks, we were really starving for an identity, and I think that we didn't find that until second week of January. We went to Virginia. We were a team who didn't execute real well early in the season offensively. Even coming out, I don't put much of merit into fall league, but this team really struggled just to get into conceptual offense. You had to push the basketball, had to play quick, and so it got to the point we went to Wayne, which was a major reset for us, and Wayne caught us. They shot 75% from the field, I think it was. And we didn't play bad. I think we scored 52 or 53 in the second half. But we were playing too slow. And so, I told them in the locker room, you almost got to play with a 10-second shot clock with this team. We're now getting to the point to where we've now got that as a piece of our toolbox. And they're starting to execute pretty well when they need to. Our identity shifted from being guard heavy now to where Brody Ilderton has really caught a lot of eyes, I think, in our region and somewhat part of the state because of our level of physicality in the paint. With Tyler Paris, who's a stretch four that really just plays like a guard, but he's got a forward's body in high school. We've been really able to really start designing how to get buckets. And, and previous to that, and probably previous to that second part of January, if we weren't creating something in transition, we weren't getting it. And, we get lucky on some back cuts and things, motion concepts, but just to come down and truly have an offensive identity we didn't have. Starting to get that really solid. Defensively, they're learning to guard the way I want to. It's taken a long while to get here, but this past month, we can actually set in half court. We can defend. I'm learning guys who I can put in certain situations. And so it's been definitely a growth. The 5 months we've had has been exactly that. It's 5 months of growth. And that's, heading into Friday, that's what you want. You want to be playing your best basketball. And there's a lot of good teams in our region. I mean, I think 4 or 5 of them have all been in the top 10 at one point or another. 4 of us, I guess. And where I'm at right now as a coach is, it's put up or shut up. So you hope the guys come in, practice every day really hard. We've got a huge game tomorrow against Nitro on Tuesday. And so it'll be a good test for us to see where we're at and hopefully got confidence Wednesday to jump off of.
You mentioned that, I just listening to you, it seems like you really like this group and the identity, as you mentioned, at this point. Kind of walk me through what you've enjoyed about this team specifically, since this is your third season. We'll get to that here in a couple of minutes, but with this team in particular, what have you liked about this team and going to war with them each and every game? Man,
the energy these guys play with is contagious, and it's a young group. My sophomore class is a pretty special class, and we've had a really good leadership out of those 3 seniors. Preston Kiefer, who just would run through a brick wall for you. Reed with the level of athleticism that's really, it's rare to have a kid walk through here 6'6.5" with his athleticism that he plays with. And then Tyler, who just adds such a diversity to our offense and physicality defensively. Back in the summer, you predate. We talk a little bit about last year, not to get ahead, but it was hard to get summer rhythms going last year. I had guys that, it's hard to find gym time because a lot of guys had their attention pulled elsewhere, and we want everybody to be a multiple sport athlete at Winfield because it's a community school. We teach that, but you still got to make time for your traits. You still got to be able to come in and get shots up on your own and stuff. And so last year was really hard to get that group to do that. Step into this year. These 3 seniors grabbed these young sophomores, our freshmen, and brought them in. Open gyms were competitive. We were in a weight room 3 days. We were still in a weight room 2 days a week as of I sat here. We got weights tomorrow right after school. This group starves for it. And so when you go from a season to where you only win 6 games, you struggle. Am I doing the right stuff here as a coach? Am I able to inspire kids to play hard? Can I get what I need out of a kid? Am I putting enough into the kids? Now you step into this year, and these guys literally just poured a breath of fresh air at me. Last year we had great kids on the team. It just never gelled, and and I think that's a pretty open concept with us. But these guys have approached every day ready to get on the basketball court. We've not really had bad practices. If I've really counted, I think there's been 2 practices where I just removed us from the gym and made them had to kind of hit a hard reset, come back in the door. And with that said, you take a group that's played together, like once again, you go back to the sophomores, not to beat a dead horse, but those kids have played together since 2nd grade. And when you see them, they're never alone. They're always in a pack. There's always 7 or 8 of them. And it don't matter if they're going to homecoming or if they're in the weight room or if they're going to eat at the Mexican restaurant. They're always together, and the seniors have really surrounded themselves with them as well. And it's became such a joint group that I broke down in tears our last home game after post game because you don't want it to end. And that's one of these, it's enthusiastic as a coach, to have kids that just want to be here. And and winning's hard, coaching is not easy. Trying to keep players happy and trying to win and try to block out all the noise that comes around all the secondary conversations and truly just coach this team. And when they buy into it, it just makes you want to be in here. And so that's why I'm excited to be sat here. And I hate that we only got, at best case scenario, 3 weeks left. So
we've talked about the senior class. I mean, Tyler and Preston as well with those 3 in the core and how they've kind of bought in and brought in these young guys, as you alluded to. In your years here at Winfield, what has this group meant to this program?
Oh man, well, the sophomore class will be my first complete class. By having gotten them as freshmen coming through. The seniors right now were sophomores when I got here, and I was learning them. Trying to figure where they fit, where I fit. I had a really good group of seniors that year. Ross Music, Cody, Tanner Lockery. We had a really good class of seniors, and I got thrown in. Thrown in. My very first day on the job here at Winfield was the first day of practice, and didn't know anyone. Cody Griffith was the only person I was familiar with, and so having had that to the point to see these sophomores who were really talented, and you saw it. Trying to get their skill level and basketball IQ, and Chris was a phenomenal coach, but those guys were really young coming in after their freshman year. And so there was a great foundation laid of work ethic because Chris demanded it, and who is a coach I respect immensely. We had good culture in regards to the players. Now to be able to get them just to, put my spin on it and have them through it for the past 3 years, and to see them graduate year to year in that process, and to come to the point to where they're owning it and they're now pulling the guys with them, as opposed to kind of being back on the back burner a little bit, not getting enough reps, hiding behind reps instead of getting on the floor with confidence. Now you see their behaviors, especially throughout the summer. I can't harp on it enough because that's where the culture was built, was in the weight room, and these guys off the court at the park playing ball. Now you see the sophomores, and they know that's what I expect. These seniors have allowed me to coach them so hard that the sophomores, the freshmen, they understand how I coach. And so I don't have to beg them to want to be coached. And if you have a senior class that rejects you and fights you, you have to beg for effort. If you're in a constant state of just having to overcoach, you get jaded to it, and kids get deafened, and you lose a team. This senior class has not allowed that to happen. And in turn, We've doubled our win total already at this point versus what we were at last year. And these guys, as every player in the state of West Virginia wants to get to Charleston, and these guys truly, from the first coaches poll that came out, didn't have us in it. They saw that as a sign as, okay, we got to wake this program back up. And that was them, and in your heart of hearts as a coach, you hope they listen to it and they answer that bell. And now it's that, okay, we got a fourth seed. It's put up or shut up. Do we deserve to be there? Does Winfield deserve to be in the talk with the Nitros right now? Do we deserve to be in that conversation with the Shady Springs? The comparatives you have, you talk about Fairmont Senior with Coach Rhett. Does Winfield fit that mold? I think it does. And it's because of what I see every single day in here. And we're evolving to a basketball brand that I really, on my 5-year plan when I took this job, we're on track to getting where I want it to be.
Along that line, again, I mentioned this is your 3rd year in the program. You took over for Chris Stevens. But talking about your time here and the short amount of time that you have been here, how have you seen yourself grow and develop as a coach in these 3 years?
Oh, wow. My expectations have changed, and not in the way you probably think. Coming from Tays Valley Christian, so having coached on the national circuit for 6 years, having coached with Ryan Airwood, who I consider one of the best high school basketball coaches I've ever been around in regards to detail, his passion, his commitment. When I came in here, we had, I don't know the exact number, but 30-plus college players that played for us at Tays Valley Christian. We were ranked top 10 in the country at one point at USA Today. Had a USA Today Player of the Week nominee. You come here and you think every kid wants to go play college basketball. And so my mantra was just to lose my mind, because that you're taking food off my plate was the mentality I was used to with what we came from, as opposed to some kids just want to play for their school. And I had forgotten that process because it was such a, I don't want to say a business to me, but it was always so focused on college-driven goals. And so when I came here my first year, I really had a reality check in the sense of getting back, and it's the purity of high school community basketball is that I get to coach kids who just want to play basketball, and they want to do it for their parents. They want to do it for the guy down the hallway. They want to do it because that right there on their chest instead of the next level. And so as I swallowed my pride some, realized I'm not as good a coach as I was, I'm really getting back to the fact of the prep level, players need more out of you. You're their dad, you're their financial advisor, sometimes you're their tutor, sometimes you're their counselor. And you come to a beautiful community like Winfield that's blessed to have a lot of success in the area. Those kids that just need you to coach basketball and believe in you. And so you readjust what your vision is, and you readjust how you make relationships. I've never lost sight that, you have to know the kid before you can coach the kid. And when I was here my first year, I didn't know him well enough. Like Toby Locker, you go back in, I hate that he don't play for us this year because of his shoulder. But his sophomore year, I told him mid-season, I didn't know him well enough to coach him hard because I hadn't earned his respect yet. And getting into his junior year, I began to get that appreciation from him. My group last year, we had a lot of adversity. From player standpoint, from coaching standpoints, and having to learn to negotiate some of that adversity live during season was really eye-opening for me in regards to some of the stressors outside of basketball. I grew from that. Having to go back, this year, kind of reinventing how we're going to run motion concepts and how can I play to the favors of the kids as opposed to me trying to be so strict and linear. That's got to be this way because it's the way I want it. Focused on putting so much skill time versus letting guys just play and get chemistry together. That is a huge adjustment for me because I'm used to 45 minutes of aggressive skill, aggressive format, and then maybe we'll get 15 minutes of practice time in to get them down the court together. I flipped that completely this year, and the guys needed that chemistry because the youth had seniors who had came in roles they've not been in before, and so it really made a difference in how I had to approach this team. Now, am I getting the best out of them? I think our potential is still high. I don't think we've hit our ceiling yet. We've not shot the ball well the past couple of weeks, so we're going back and adjusting now how we're doing practice at this point in the season. Are we getting enough shots up? Because we haven't shot a good in the past two. But I've really, from a selfishness standpoint, I think I've made greater strides to get the kids to believe in me as a person. And it's really carried through our locker room. I mean, it's always energetic in here. There's not a day I come in I don't start smiling and walk in the locker room because the guys are just so fun to be around.
Let's talk about a couple of your players, and we'll start with Reed Fisher, a guy that you mentioned, 6'6", can do it in just a lot of different ways for this team. Talk about his growth in the 3 seasons that you've seen him and where he is now. What's different about him compared to the first year you had him?
When I think of Reed back as a sophomore, I saw unpotential talent. Didn't know him well, and I was frustrated coaching him because you would see bursts of, we just had this conversation last week. There was a period of about 2 days his sophomore year, I just got ridiculously upset because he just wasn't guarding strong enough, and he's got this length. And so I go at him pretty hard, and all of a sudden he just flipped. And it was probably the most aggressive day or two of defensive effort I've seen in this gym out of him. And I was like, okay, how do I get that back out of him? And then we get into this season where I need him to be an elite rebounder. And you see him rim contesting, changes shots at the rim, gets up and down the court really well, still gaining strength to attack a rim. But his evolution of his physicality, it's still got ways to go. But where he's at now versus then, his mindset as far as knowing what the team needs out of him you've seen that maturity take place. Talking to opposing coaches when, we always set and trade notes on scouts in regards to each other. It's something I love to do is talk to other coaches and say, what are you doing to take me away after the fact? What are you focused on? What do you think of this kid? The beauty of Reed, you hear them say, he's hard for us to scout because he gets so many different dynamics. And as a player, that's what you need to be. As a coach, it's what you want to hear because you get different dynamics. You don't want to just be a one positional player. Reed can handle the ball well for us. He shoots it well. Doesn't shoot enough. I'm on him constantly because you go and look, Reed's shooting like 7 shots a game. His efficiency scores are off the chart. He needs to be taking 15 to 18 shots a game for us to be able to go to Charleston. We're having a chance. He's got to have that. And he's had several games where he's 20 plus. But I need those in that big time game for him to come out and have that confidence. The team needs him to go do this. And he's right on the verge of it. Been really, really happy with him. Still riding. I probably coach him harder. And I told him in the locker room after the Hoover game just the other night, I coach him harder than anybody on this team because he has so much untapped potential. As he continues to see it, he's going to have an excellent college career wherever he ends up. But with that said, a kid of that talent, if I don't coach him that hard, I don't have any respect or any ability to coach the younger kids under him, and he allows me to do that, which is very important to me.
The other guy I want to talk about before I open the floor up to you is Preston Kiefer, a guy that, in my eyes, just a really good, pesky defender. You think of like Patrick Beverly, you hear NBA players so often just talking about how pesky he is, how annoying he is on the defensive floor, and seeing him play in a couple of games this season, especially against Hurricane, he just seemed like he was like lint. He was everywhere. He took a couple of charges for you guys. Talk about him on the defensive end of the floor and how his game bleeds off and sheds off and rubs off on these other guys.
Oh, man, Preston is my guy. That's when you think of a player you want to coach somebody who never turns off the switch, that teams don't want to compete against. A kid that's not afraid to put his head on the floor, sometimes does it too much. Constant talker, plays with a chip on his shoulder. Sometimes you got to separate him from it. He leads our team in technicals. I think he actually leads this program in technicals over the past 3 years. And some of it I don't mind because it's effort levels and confidence levels and chips on the shoulders that I've been begging for. And so you can't gripe about it when it shows up. With that said, he's the guy that keeps us going. He's the guy you'll see. You go back to Tyler Eulis, I'm a huge Kentucky guy. 2015, I was in practice with Coach Cal, and that 15 team was special. And Big Cat, and you see Tyler Eulis, little old Tyler, just up in his, car, going at him, get Willie Cauley-Steins, and those guys look like they're scared of him. And that's my vision of a point guard. Like, man, you've got to have everybody's respect. You watch Preston. In this practice, when you mess up, you know it. And on the floor, he's constantly in my ear. Coach, this is what we're feeling in the game. He always gives me great feedback. A kid's won 2 state championships here. You got a baseball state championship, I think 2 golf state championships, so 3. But he's a 2-sport state champion, and he brings that to our floor. And you need kids like that in the program to really set the pace on where we want to go, because I'm yet to win a state championship in the sport I love. I won a Christian state championship back in 16 with Ryan. But what we want to do here and repeat what was done in 2004 at Winfield High School, it takes somebody knowing that's been there and what it looks like and what it feels like, what it sounds like. And Preston has built that for our program, so I can't echo him enough.
And I do so lots on this program, and the audience knows that where I'm going with this, but give me a couple of guys that have caught your eye this season. I mean, I know we've talked about Tyler, we've talked about Brody some, the sophomore class as well. Just kind of give me your perspective of some other guys in this program.
So I'm going to start with the kid that hasn't been able to take the court a lot right now is Jared Miller. And so you'll notice a couple of voids in our lineup that would have been potentials. Jared Miller one, Toby Lockery the other. Both went out with labral reconstruction surgeries following football injuries. And Jared's just now been able to catch some of his stride back. But over the past month, he's started practicing again, playing a little bit of JV minutes. He's a kid that is ready for varsity time. We've been trying to string him along a little bit, make sure he's ready, but he's a mindset we have to have in this lineup to, in my thoughts, to get to the potential that we want to get to. And so I'd start there. Go to Brody Elderton. You know, Brody, a 6'4" center, 210 pounds. Another guy that's never had a bad day of practice since I've been here. And I'm going all the way back to his freshman year. The kid's never had a bad day of practice. Always the first one in the gym, always the loudest in the gym, always the one that knows what's going on, communicates with me really, really well on the floor. Once again, plays with an edge on his shoulder. Sometimes gets a little out of hand. He's got a little Logan County in him, so we got to kind of like pull back in a little bit. But when you think of him, you know, he's still developing his hands. He's never been a guy that stretched the floor because he's always been bigger than everybody. So a lot of the, you know, in middle school, that's how you win ball games. In high school, you can't do that. You can't just go be a post guy. You've got to be able to pick pop, set screens, go screens, get to the, you know, feet's got to be better. He's developed, you know, you go watch a Point Pleasant game. He hit 6 out of 7 mid-key shots that really stretched our game out of a high-low action because they were doubling him every time post. So we flip it, he goes out. I mean, literally just boom, 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 stretches floor back out. We get threes and control the ball game. His game has evolved probably more than anybody's in this locker room. I truly feel, you know, he's a big-time baseball player, going to be successful in next level in baseball. But I honestly think if he continues to work at basketball at the rate he has the potential to be one of the largest agitators in our state in the paint. To me, that excites me because I love coaching big guys, especially big guys like the Anderson Marambos, you remember, that can pick, pop that thing, get you downhill, and just play basketball. And Brody, it's funny because when you talk to him, he's like, Coach, I've never been asked to shoot. And he was almost adverse to it. And he comes out and hits his first 2 threes of the season. And I'm like, man, you need to shoot more. You got beautiful form, and the only way you learn to shoot that in game, shoot it in game. And so he's somebody I'm very, very excited about. You know, the Owen Taylors of the world, Maiden Oglesby, the freshman. You know, we've got Carter Workman, who's really, you see, go back to the Hurricane game. Second half is a kid that just, you know, you look at the Odell brothers, who are 2 of the premier shooters in our state, especially, you know, Carson being at junior level. Carter's the guy that came in and just worked his tail end off every day in practice. And I had a coach ask me after that game who was the number 13 kid and why did you trust him to put him on Odell? And you talked about it a little bit with me in the interview after the game. That kid never turns it off in practice. I mean, if he was 6'4", he'd be a Division I player. You know, just because his level of effort, his offense has got developed. But he's a kid that, like a Preston Kiefer, does all the other stuff. Never takes a day off. Always communicating. And so I see those guys, and it really, you know, it excites me for where we're going. Ty Lockery's coming on a little bit late. The football guys, it always takes them, you know, that mid-February to really get back into that basketball, which stinks why it ends in March, you know. But he's starting to come on a little bit, but really excited about those guys.
Well, Coach, good luck the rest of the way this season. I know you guys got a game Tuesday evening against Nitro and then regional play later this week, but good luck the rest of the season, and hopefully we can see you guys in Charleston.
Taylor, thanks for coming, man. I appreciate having you back.
Absolutely. That's the head coach of the boys basketball team here at Winfield High School, head coach Travis Tarr. Be sure to check out our coverage from now until the Boys State High School basketball tournament in Charleston by going to our website, wvgazettemail.com. Follow us on Twitter at GazMail Sports. That's GAZ Mail Sports. And be sure to follow us on Facebook at HD Media Sports.